Hey friends, y'all getting a little cabin fever being cooped up inside? I know that I have been, and that's why we are now outside in the park close to my house while I teach you today's lesson on how to do poi stalls. Yeah? Drex here from DrexFactor.com, working to bring the love of poi spinning and flow arts into your world. And today, as we navigate the COVID-19 outbreak, I am teaching you how to do the most basic transition tool there is in poi spinning, that is stalls. Before we dive in, of course, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Flow Toys, Pyroterra Light Toys, LMF Props, Spinballs, and Ultrapoi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these awesome companies and the work that they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links that I've got down in the description of this video. So we are currently in the park that is across the street from my house. This is actually where I do most of my practicing, but I almost never shoot tutorials here. The reason for that being that there's a local school that 2 or 3 times a day, they have all their kids come take their recess out here. So the park is inundated with incredibly loud and incredibly boisterous kids. Not usually that big a problem when I am just getting my flow on and everything, but when I am shooting video and the audio matters, that does make a difference. Ironically enough, conditions here are just about ideal. You know, people are practicing social distancing and everything, so one of the benefits of that is I don't think anybody's going to interrupt this take. At least let's hope not, yeah? So, let's dive in on stalls. So, the 2 tricks that we've started off our week with, namely our reel turns and our butterflies, are kind of interesting in that they have some things that are in common. Namely, as I'm spinning through these reels right here and everything, you notice how the poi are kind of staying in time with each other. They both go up and down at the same time, right? When I'm doing my butterfly, it's the same kind of thing, that the poi are both going up and down at the same time. So both of these moves happen in something that we would refer to as together timing. That is, the ups and the downs happen at exactly the same time for both moves, right? The difference is, though, that when I'm doing reel turns like this, the poi are also spinning in the same direction. When I'm doing a butterfly, however, the poi are spinning in opposite directions. So we would refer to the way that the poi are spinning here as I'm doing these reel turns as together time same direction, or just together same for short. Whereas when we're doing a butterfly, we would refer to this as together time opposite directions, or just together opposite, right? It's a little bit of theory, but there's a really important piece of that there. Namely, how do we get from going same direction to opposite direction in a way that looks good and that flows really well? Well, the tool of choice, at least for me, are these. These are called stalls. So the basic idea behind a stall is that you are trying to create a kind of equilibrium on the poi. That is, you're trying to create conditions under which the momentum that the poi has on it cancels out with whatever forces happen to be coming out of your hand, right? This means that the poi will come to a stop and you can very, very easily switch the direction that it happens to be spinning in. It is very, very, very important for transitioning between all kinds of poi tricks, not just those that have different directions to them, right? So you know how when you're just spinning the poi and everything, it's that thing that you're kind of having to give it just a little bit of a push every time it comes around in order to keep it spinning? Well, now we're going to have to try and do the opposite and take away that momentum as the poi is spinning, right? The easiest way that you can do this, honestly, is to just let the poi kind of swing out to either side and do like a little loop in between and everything. That is, just avoid putting that extra bit of oomph on it to get it over top, and let it just kind of like fall out and stop moving. This is what I would refer to as a bottom stall, yeah? And while a bottom stall is pretty easy to do, I also don't think it looks that terribly dynamic. My personal preference is to start off with doing these. These are what I would call down stalls. Now, this has the same idea that these bottom stalls do, in that you're basically trying to create conditions under which the poise momentum just comes to a stop. The difference is that you have to more actively get your hand involved in order to make that happen. So one way you can go about this is, I almost like to imagine that the poi is taking off like a rocket ship, and that your hand is just kind of being pulled behind it like a streamer or something like that. And the amount of drag that that kind of adds to the poi is going to cancel out that momentum eventually. Your hand kind of follows a little arc around as it follows the poi head. And really you're going to wind up wanting to start with your hand up close and let the poi pull it out to either side of you as that happens, right? Now, in a lot of cases, you're going to find yourself winding up with the poi still swinging at the end of it, like in those cases, right? What's going on there is that you actually are still adding a bit of energy onto the poi with your hand as it's coming around. You want to try and get to a point where really the hand is almost like acting as a brake as it's going through, being yanked by the poi and everything. Have the poi eat up its momentum, pulling your hand along rather than the other way around, and it's going to help out a lot. Another visualization I'm sometimes fond of. Another visualization technique that I'm really fond of is to actually imagine that you're trying to drop the poi down like a little hole on either side of your body. Like there's a little well or something that you're trying to just drop the poi down into. I find that really helps for thinking about trying to get that vertical motion on the poi to help bring it into its momentum, yeah? Okay, so to help you really understand what's going on here, I'm going to use a little bit of computer trickery to kind of put a little visualization over this whole thing. I want you to imagine that this circle that the poi is going around has a square around it, and that they intersect at 4 different points. Now here's the thing. When the poi is passing by one of those points where the square intersects with the circle, you have an opportunity to make a stall happen. That is, let's say I want to have a down stall happen out to this side of me. If I wait until that moment when the poi is passing through that intersection between the circle and the square, if I move my hand straight out to the point of that intersection, it's going to make the poi switch over from being in the circle to going along the side of the square. You want the poi to go along the side of that square. You want its path to change from being circular to being straight. And by the time your hand gets all the way out to that intersection, it's going to cancel out the momentum on the poi because it wants to go straight down. If your hand is directly above it, then it's going to keep it from doing that, right? Check it out. So let me show that to you again just a little bit in slow-mo. So hey, some of you out there that are particularly eagle-eyed may be noticing that because the box has 4 corners to it, there must be other ways that you can hit those corners, and you would be correct. In fact, there is an exercise that I'm very fond of having people do in order to learn how to do the stalls that go into each corner of this box. I'm not going to teach that exercise today because I've got other stuff that I want to show you, but I will link to it. So if you want to, you can learn that full exercise, yeah? But in the meantime, I want you to work to be able to get to the point where you can do that down stall 10 times to either side of your body. If it happens to be that the poi is still kind of moving just a little bit at the end, what that means is that you moved out your hand a little bit too early and you added to the poi's momentum, yeah? Try and wait just a half a second longer before your hand goes out, and I think you'll find that it is much more effective at getting the momentum of the poi to stop. By the same token, if you wait a little too late, you may find that the poi just keeps on going over your hand like that, right? In that case, get your hand out just a little bit earlier and it will compensate for that. So once you've got 10 stalls down with your dominant hand, I want you to try doing 10 stalls with both hands at the same time. Start off spinning your poi in, what would we call this again? That's right, together same, and stall both of them down to the right-hand side of your body, and then to the left-hand side of your body, and then to the right-hand side of your body, and then the left-hand side of your body. Get your hands to work together as they do this, yeah? And here comes the point where I'm really going to mess with you. And that is, you're going to have to learn how to stall just one hand at a time. Let me show you what I mean by that. If you start off with your poi spinning clockwise like this, I want you to go ahead and have just your right hand stall out to the side. This may take a few tries to get right. It may be that you find that as you reach your right hand out, it keeps on spinning, or it might be that when you stop your right hand, your left hand stops as well. You're going to have to try and work to get to a point where you can keep that left hand going even as you stop your right hand. Generally speaking, the way that I do this is I'll actually just have somebody go and reach their right hand out, and I don't care if the poi stops dead completely in its tracks, but you're going to stop putting energy on it so it will eventually stop spinning while you really focus on keeping that left hand going, yeah? So really think, okay, left hand, keep going, and hey, it may not be a perfect stall, but you're getting your 2 hands to do 2 different things, right? Okay, and next step, we're going to take that right hand and we're going to pull the poi up and around and get into our butterfly from yesterday. Yes, there's a reason why I put these 2 moves together. Now, the coming up and over shouldn't be that big a deal. You're used to having your two poi both go up at the same time. So really just work on getting them to come around and maintain timing here. Now, next thing you're going to do is you're going to make use of that kind of throwing away stall to have your right hand poi go out to the side and then drop both poi back around to get them both going clockwise in together same, yeah? So your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to stall down with your right hand, bring it back in together opposites. Stall out with your right hand, bring it back in together same. Stall down into opposites, stall out into together same. Want you to see if you can get in 10 stalls like that, yeah? And hey, for you lefties out there, you can do this too. Let's start off in counterclockwise instead of clockwise for our initial conditions in together same here. You're going to stall your left hand down and bring it back into butterfly, and then pitch it out and drop it into counterclockwise. Really make sure you're checking each time that you've returned to the initial direction that you started in. Really think, okay, counterclockwise, and I stall into butterfly, and I stall, and they're both going counterclockwise. You can really, really emphasize and exaggerate it if you want to, if that's what it takes to make it come together for you, yeah? So if you want the gold star for today, work on doing 10 stalls with your right hand, and 10 stalls with your left hand, yeah? When you're doing the stalls with your right hand, you start clockwise. And when you do the stalls with your left hand, you start counterclockwise. Yes. So all this is adding up to us taking everything that we've learned this week and creating our own poi combo. And that will be the topic of tomorrow's tutorial. So please make sure to tune in to watch that. Awesome. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe and help me get the word out about this series and help bring more people into the flow arts while we are navigating this outbreak and everything, yeah? If you would like to learn more of this stuff, including stuff that I'm not going to cover in this series, you should head on over to my website at drexfactor.com and sign up for my Spin Poi Like a Rockstar series. You will get videos sent to your inbox that will take you through all these topics and vastly more and go deeper into the theory and all that. And quite frankly, if you have gotten bitten by the bug and want to keep going down this rabbit hole, that would be an excellent way to do it. If you are digging this project, please consider signing up to support me on Patreon. That's right, these videos are possible right now because I have that income coming through Patreon and everything, and thus I am having a month where I don't have to stress out about making rent and everything. Yay! So, these nice folks already signed up to do this. If you would like to as well, please head on over to patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. You get early access to all of my content as well as being able to vote on things like, say, hey, I had this crazy idea for doing a tutorial a day for an entire week. What do y'all think about that? And I get like 10 people saying, yes, you totally should. So if you'd like to have a say in things like that, please head on over and sign up. Cool. And we are going to wrap up this week with tomorrow's tutorial on a basic poi combo that will pull together everything that you have learned thus far. So please tune in to that. I'll see you then. Peace.